Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Sunday, December 19th, 2021. Well, we're almost to 2022, the year that is supposed to, accelerate everything according to what they're saying. They're saying, 2022 is going to be the year of implementation and reinvigorating multilateralism, and we're going to empower the United Nations and all this stuff. And well, yeah, we're just getting closer to that. If you couldn't tell, they are now ramping back up all of the C-19 propaganda. They are reinstituting a lot of the policies that were around during 2020, like the mask mandates and this and that. And of course, a lot of places are still requiring, and a lot of new businesses are still now requiring for people to be fully vaccinated before they return to work. Now, my own place of work has reinstituted the mask policy, and that goes into effect tomorrow morning. I am not happy about it. I will probably resist it, or at least be disobedient toward it until I get yelled at however many times it takes for me to finally put it back on. I usually do that though, and then they eventually either stop asking me or whatever, or they keep telling me, but we'll see how it goes. Not very happy about it. I'm sure a lot of people are not happy that a lot of stores and their places of work are now reinstituting or instituting for the first time these measures. I have been absent for about, I made a couple community posts here and there, probably for about 9-10 days, and I really don't have any excuse other than the fact that I was, distracted, which is not good, especially when you're in this line of work. Being distracted is not a good thing, and I'm only human, so that happened to me, and, sometimes laziness gets a hold of me, and then I'm like, well, I should make it, but I don't want to, because that's just the way that it happened, which is unfortunate, and I try to fight that within myself, but we all have our problems. Also, the next article that I have for you guys that I'm bringing, well, no, I'll just say something about it once we get there. Okay, let's go with this first one here first. Happy that you are all here, by the way, and everybody that has emailed me and asked me if I'm okay. As you can tell, yes, I am most definitely okay. I've just been absent for the past couple days. No big deal. We're here now. Breakthrough infections may create, quote, super immunity to C-19, study suggests. Okay, so if you don't know, a breakthrough infection is somebody who took the thing. This is what they're saying, not what I'm saying or not what I believe. A breakthrough infection, according to them, is somebody who took the thing and then still got infected, so to speak. But now they're saying that they may create a super immunity to C-19. Oh, so if you go get your thing and you still somehow get sick, but, the real reason you got sick is because you took that thing, but they won't tell you that, of course, because it goes against everything they're trying to do. Anyway, so you take the thing, you get sick, now you have super immunity, and the way they explain this, you guys will see. Researchers at Oregon Health and Science University say they found evidence to suggest that breakthrough infections create super immunity to the virus that causes C-19. You can't get a better immune response than this. Senior author Fakadu Tafis, PhD and assistant professor at the OHSU School of Medicine, said in a news release, quote, these vaccines are very effective against severe disease. Our studies suggest that individuals who are vaccinated and then exposed to a breakthrough infection have super immunity. So basically, they are adding one more element to what already is the truth, and the truth is your body builds up a natural immunity to anything. Literally anything. Anything in this world, even if that thing is weapons-grade uranium and you can't even go near it or touch it because you will most likely die within 2 months of some kind of crazy cancer or some kind of poisoning, your body is still going to fight against it. even though it might not be successful. But in this case, with, a lot of sicknesses or diseases or other ailments, your body still fights back. And most of the time, you come out on top, of course, because we're all alive. Everybody watching this, you are alive. You've conquered diseases or ailments in your past. But they want people to think that they're going to have super immunity now. Because they're going to go and they're going to get their thing, they're going to get their boosters, they're going to go out and do all this. And then when you do get sick, now you are locked in. You are now a superhuman with a superhuman immune system that's going to be just impossible to penetrate by any disease or whatever they say. It doesn't matter what they say, because these people are on a path to destruction of the human race. And this is all par for the course. Specifically, Tafis and his team of researchers found that antibodies in the blood of a vaccinated person who experienced a breakthrough case could be 1,000% more effective than those found in some fully vaccinated individuals who did not get infected. Well, wait a minute. Let's see here. Yeah, you know why? Wait, let me go back up here. You know why the antibodies in the blood of a vaccinated person who experienced a breakthrough case could be 1,000% more effective than the found in some fully vaccinated individuals who did not get infected? Because these people were exposed to a disease. So their antibodies built up in order to fight the disease. And the disease did not infect the people who did not get infected, of course, because that's what this says. So the antibodies didn't have to grow and respond to it. So it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. This is literally just regular old common sense that, and they're passing it off as some kind of huge medical breakthrough. These people lie on a day-to-day basis, and it's really, really irritating that most people can't see it. I'm at the point now, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well, I'm at the point now to where I can literally see a commercial, any commercial, it doesn't matter, and I'm like, wow, this is what this is saying in order to condition people for the agenda. It's on every single commercial, television show, movie, anything. So basically, this just keeps going on as the study, however, examined blood samples from only 26 people with breakthrough cases, all of whom were OHSU employees. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Study co-author Marcel Kurlan, MD, said the results may indicate an eventual end game for the situation. It doesn't mean we're at the end of the situation, but it points to where we're likely to land. Once you're vaccinated and then exposed to the virus, you're probably going to be reasonably well protected from future variants, Kurlan said. So, which is it? Are you going to be resistant toward all these future variants because of this? Or I thought that it didn't work against those other variants, and that's why you got to get more boosters. They flip-flop every single other article. And people are like, well, nope, the only reason they do that, based on the more science that they get, then they can change their opinion. No, I mean, in some cases, maybe, but no. They're literally picking and choosing and cherry-picking when to interject their beliefs into a conversation. We all have done it. There's no, ultimate... I can't even. These people are the worst. And if you still believe them after all this time, after the whole 2 weeks to go ended, after the whole, we're not going to force this on anybody, after the whole, they'll never have the vaccine passports, if you still believe them after all of that, I really don't know what to tell you. And I assure you that nobody in this community knows what to tell you either. Because we've been saying it for a long time. And guess what? We've only gotten somewhere with some people. Nowhere near what we actually need. Oh, here we go. Ready for this? Health officials, meanwhile, continue to encourage vaccination and booster shots as the best protection against C-19, especially in the face of Omicron variant expected dominance. So there's the moronic variant again. You know, the one that they admitted was literally nothing, the same as they did for the first one. But it doesn't matter, because as long as they come on television and tell the mass majority of people through the TV that it's very dangerous and it's everywhere and it's going to kill you, that's how we get back to more forced vaccinations in order to attend work, school, a shopping mall, wherever. That's how we get more mask mandates, like at people's places of employment, or out in public, or at a bank, anywhere. Dr. Anthony, I won't say his name, but you know who we're talking about, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, said Thursday that the booster shots are especially important to reconstitute protections among the fully vaccinated, even if they may not prevent Omicron infection. Oh, wait a minute. But up here it said that they're going to be good against any other variants because of the, the breakthrough cases and they're infected, but now they have 1,000% super immunity. You just said that they're probably not going to get this other variant, but now you're saying that it may not prevent it. So it doesn't even have to be from one article to the other. This is in the same article. Quote, it may not protect much against infection, but it will go a long way to protect against severe disease, he said Thursday at an event for U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Here we go. What's his name? Won't say it. Also said Omicron will likely become the dominant variant within a few weeks, but stressed that unvaccinated individuals are still very vulnerable to the Delta variant, which is currently resurging in the United States. Okay, so not only do we have the first one, and then the Delta, that is just surging so bad that I know so many people that are dead. And now all of a sudden we got this new one, which I still don't know anybody dead from the last two, so why worry about this one? They're never going to let go of this. And you know what's funny? The disease stuff and the C-19 stuff is on the back burner right now, because they're building up war tensions again. They're talking about cyber attacks. They are talking about other things that are not this. Still going with the climate stuff, of course. They're never going to let go of any of it. And it's because we aren't doing much. We're doing something, but we aren't doing much. Moving on. Okay, here we are over at NBC News, our friends, affiliated with all of the rest of the communist news networks. Okay, get a load of this. So, before I start this, I want to tell you that I've been telling you for months. Others have told you longer than I have. I'm only coming up on a year of making videos, but others have told you for a long time. If your kids are in the public school system, take them out now. Do not leave your kids in the public school system, especially if you're in Ohio, because we have on record, and I showed these before a couple times, where they have the quarantine centers for children, and they will need to pack a sleepover bag, so in case they need to take them to a quarantine facility sponsored by FEMA and built by FEMA, then they will need to, and to notify the parents that they can't get them until it's deemed safe by the state, which probably means until everybody in your household takes a shot. It's coming to that point to where they will literally use your kids as blackmail. Try to get you to do something. We're basically already there. Biden administration unveils push for test to stay policy to keep kids in school. So basically, you have to take a test if you want to stay. There's your out. If you still have any kind of concern over your children, take them out of the school. Reducing mandatory quarantines after a C exposure. would help prevent absenteeism and learning loss that occurs with virtual learning, officials said. Yeah, learning loss, more like loss of propaganda. The Biden administration unveiled a new strategy Friday using increased C19 testing to keep children in the classroom. Yes, they care so much about your children. They want to make sure that their health is good and that your children are safe from other people's children. The move comes as some school districts are once again going virtual in an attempt to avoid the worst of the Omicron variant. The moronic variant strikes again. Strategy includes a test-to-stay approach. Instead of a mandatory quarantine for unvaccinated students identified as close contacts of C19 positive peer, those students could remain in school if they test negative for the virus at least twice during the week after an exposure. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention is also releasing 2 reports Friday highlighting school districts that have used the test-to-stay approach successfully. Alright, so the CDC is in on this. They got 2 reports they're going to release, and they're studying the effect of what these schools are doing. This is all in lockstep. Everything in the world is and has been in lockstep since at least March of 2020, when the country of the United States was effectively handed over to FEMA on March 13th by then President Donald Trump. Literally handed the country over to FEMA. And then a couple weeks later, he gave the symbolic key to the White House to Benjamin Netanyahu, then Prime Minister of Israel. What do you think any of this means? And now they're literally just toying with us. That's what they are doing. They are toying with us. The Biden administration is seeking to head off major disruptions in hospital and school settings as the Omicron variant, now gaining a foothold in the U.S., is expected to barrow into the upcoming holiday season. Schools are particularly vulnerable, with just 18% of kids aged 5 to 11 with at least 1 shot, as well as 61% of those aged 12 to 17, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. One of the new CDC reports, based on 90 schools in Lake County, Illinois, estimated that a test-to-stay approach prevented more than 8,000 missed school days. The other, from Los Angeles County in California, found schools that declined to use the test-to-stay policies lost about 92,000 school days. Studies demonstrate that test-to-stay work to keep unvaccinated children in schools safely, CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky said during a White House Situation Task Force briefing Friday. Okay, so this test-to-stay works to keep the unvaccinated children in schools safely. That literally is technically an oxymoron, because the first thing that came out about those tests were that they were contaminated with the actual C19. That's literally the first thing that came out. And why, and I've been asking this question since the beginning, every other disease, every other virus, anything in the world that you want to find out about somebody or what they have, you can either go through their saliva, hair follicles, blood is a big one. So how come none of those things work when testing for C19, and the only thing that does work is a very, very long Q-tip that they shove into your nose and scrape your brain? That's what they call it. Why do they have to do that? Like they're putting something there. None of it makes any sense, does it? That's the part that I don't get, and that's the part that I keep asking people, and then they just look at me with, like, they're dumbstruck, and they're like, well, I can't really explain that one to you, Austin. And I'm like, well, then I don't know what to tell you, because you're obviously not properly thinking as you should. The studies demonstrate that test-to-stay works to keep unvaccinated children in schools safely. So, yeah. In order to have them in school, you have to take the test. But if you take the test, this can happen, that can happen. Damned if you do, damned if you don't type scenario. And plus, once you send your kids to school and you sign that, all them papers you got to sign at the beginning of the year, if you ever actually sat there and read them instead of just getting through 28, 29 signatures or whatever, it says that the school has all rights over the well-being of your child, and they are the legal guardian for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. or 6 hours, or however long they're in school. If they're on school property, at a school function, event, anywhere affiliated with the school, they have full guardianship over your child during that time. Okay, let's see. But she added, other prevention measures were also key to the program's success. In both studies, masks were worn consistently and correctly. Close contacts of positive case were monitored for symptoms and stayed home if they became ill. Some schools are already again closing as C positivity rates once again rise. The administration is also expected to encourage teachers in particular to get C booster shots at school-based vaccine clinics. This approach will be done in partnership with teachers' unions, which is using paid advertisements in town halls to reach school personnel. People don't understand this. We are being drowned in this, the only way to get through this is by taking the shot. We have been drowned in that now for months, almost the whole year of 2021. Because as soon as this thing popped up last year, and they got through all the initial phases and what they wanted to get through, and all the resignations and the shutdowns and the locking down this and the destroying of that, they then focused on shots. 7 billion people go. Everybody in the whole world's got to take this thing. Don't ask why. We care about your health. That's our only answer. And people don't ask questions. Like, why would every single person in the world have to take one of these for free if it's about your health? Because it's not about your health. It's about the first thing on the Georgia Guidestones. And if you don't know what those are, I suggest you go look them up. Moving on. Alright, here we are over at U.S. News. OSHA vaccine mandate penalties to start January 10th. So, if your place of work has not started this yet, it's pretty safe to assume that they're going to. I firmly believe that the place that I work at is going to start doing this after the 10th, and I really hope they don't, of course, but I also know better. I've said it before. All of these companies, they like to say, oh, we believe in your rights, we believe in this, because they don't want to get sued. But as soon as they have the backing of the government and the media and the majority of people, they're going to turn on you that quick. They'll have to. They don't want to pay out money, especially what some of these fines are. So it's coming. It's literally coming. It's coming quick. They might not even wait until after the holidays to really start locking it down. The Occupational Health and Safety Administration says it will not issue citations tied to its C vaccination mandate before January 10th. The Occupational Health and Safety Administration said Saturday that it would not issue citations tied to its situation vaccination mandate before January 10th, so that companies have time to adjust and implement the requirements. Federal agencies separately said there will be no citations of companies regarding its testing requirements before February 9th. Okay, so we got two things side by side going on. The announcement came after the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 6th District in Cincinnati decided on Friday that the mandate for large employers could go forward, reversing a previous court decision made after 27 Republican-led states, conservative groups, business associations, and some individual companies challenged the mandate. OSHA said in a statement that it would not issue citations before the listed dates so long as an employer is exercising reasonable, good faith efforts to come into compliance with the standard. The mandate was previously slated to take effect January 4th. Again, in the United States, when do we give these agencies that aren't supposed to have this much power, since when do we give them the right to punish every employee in the entire country? Oh, that's right, we gave them consent when we were doing nothing while they were getting everything set up. All these years leading up to this. The Biden administration's vaccine requirement applies to companies with 100 or more employees and covers about 84 million U.S. workers. Now, let me tell you something about that statement. You might look around your company if you work in like a chain. Let's say you work at like McDonald's or something. There's maybe 15 people working in there at a time. And I'm being generous. Maybe. Right? So you'll think, hey, our companies don't have 100 or more employees. We're good. No, you're not. Look, it says company. It doesn't say store or whatever. It says company. So if McDonald's as a whole has more than 100 people, there's your requirement. That's how these things are going to work. They worded it like this so people might not be too worried about it. When we should be outraged and speaking out and fighting for our children. Employees who are not fully vaccinated have to wear face masks and be subject to weekly C-19 tests. There are exceptions, including for those who work outdoors or only at home. Administration officials estimate that the mandate will save 6,500 lives and prevent 250,000 hospitalizations over 6 months. Okay, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? Show me the estimation. Show me the paperwork. Oh yeah, it doesn't exist in these articles. Because it never does. They just come out and they throw numbers out there and they expect you to believe it. Which most people do. Because one would read this, if they would read it, and they would say, well, it's going to save 6,500 lives and prevent 250,000 hospitalizations. It's like the same thing as checkpoints, DUI checkpoints. Every time they do one in my area, they come on TV and they say, we busted 4 drunk drivers out of 6,800 cars. Oh, but we got a bunch of, tail lights being out, people who had windows that were too tinted, music too loud, muffler too loud. So it's literally just a way for them to violate the rights of 6,800 people. All under the name of going after drunk drivers, which they only caught 4. Same thing here, except we're not seeing any proof. We're seeing nothing. Just one big violation going on to everybody in the entire world. One big, huge humanitarian crime. Crimes against humanity. War crimes, you could actually say, because this is a war. This is a multi-front war. It's not a physical war. It's a spiritual war that manifests itself sometimes physically. But overall, it has not turned that way yet. But I'm sure it will at some point. I hope not. Moving on. Okay, I thought you guys would get a kick out of this one. Here we are over at Futurism. Ready for this? Not a space association's, NASA. NASA's probe took a video as it, quote, touched the sun. And wow. First of all, according to their model, and according to what they have been telling us for a long time, not what we have seen with our own eyes or disproven with our own studies, but what they've told us, you would never even be able to get close to the sun. Ever. Even in reality, they did not touch the sun. NASA's Parker Solar Probe made history by becoming the first spacecraft to have touched the sun earlier this year. The agency has now confirmed. Yes, the agency that has lied for so long about so many things. Yeah, they can be trusted now. The tiny probe made its way through the star's upper atmosphere, taking important readings off its surroundings. It even took the time to capture tons of images during its amazing stunt, which scientists stitched together for an incredible video with the Milky Way peeking out behind a stream of highly energized particles. An unprecedentedly close and fascinating look at our star. And then they give you this little grainy, choppy video that doesn't really show anything. And literally, I don't know if it'll crash my thing, so I'm not going to play it, but you could see that it's going to show you nothing. And it's in black and white. Come on. It must have been quite the experience for the solar probe as it made its way through a feature of the sun's atmosphere called the pseudo-streamer, which are huge ribbon-like structures that are visible during solar eclipses. Quote, passing through the pseudo-streamer was like flying into the eye of the storm, reads NASA's statement. Inside the pseudo-streamer, the conditions quieted, particles slowed, and the number of switchbacks dropped. A dramatic change from the busy barrage of particles the spacecraft usually encounters in the solar wind. All of this is literally a lie. All of it. It's a lie that was piled on by many lies before that into a giant mountain of just lies, like everything else. And this is one tiny aspect of that. Switchbacks are zigzag-like magnetic structures, the result of dramatic magnetic explosions occurring in the sun's atmosphere. Parker probe recently found there were a common feature of solar wind and not nearly as rare as previously thought. Okay, so they want you to believe that they took this probe and they flew it all the way and got so close and took all these pictures unscathed of the sun according to their vision and their lie and their diagrams, something that should be impossible. Quote, we see evidence of being in the corona from magnetic field data, solar wind data, and visually in white light images, said Noor Rawafi, the Parker Solar Probe project scientist at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, in the statement. Okay, so they just see the evidence of being in the corona from the magnetic field data, solar wind data, and visually in white light images. Okay, so where? That video? That's literally showing nothing? And basically they just say it's an amazing video considering the probe was screaming through the sun's atmosphere 142 kilometers per second. Also, there's no way that I believe that mankind has built a vehicle or anything that fast. There's no way. Now, what is discovered could change our understanding of the sun forever. Yes, they touch the sun. And this is what they want you to think that it looks like. So when people go and tell their friends that NASA touched the sun, that's what they're going to envision. This is just something that I brought up because it was funny. Thought you guys would get a kick out of it. I sure did. Whenever I read it, I'm like, man, probably got the Bubbles in Space guy up there just talking away about this, and nobody's even saying a word. Moving on. All right, here we are over at JonathanBretner.com. Transhumanism, the plot to control your life. Now, for anybody that doubts that we are going into a time where they want to merge man with machine and create a super artificially intelligent race of half human, half AI hybrids, if you doubt that, you need to go read The Fourth Industrial Revolution by Klaus Schwab, and you need to listen to these people when they talk in Geneva about Internet of Bodies, Internet of Things. You need to listen to the World Economic Forum. You need to listen to these people talk and what they're actually saying, because it's not that hard to figure out. Okay, everything's looking good. The recordings are still rolling. We're good. If our world is not on a direct path to the fulfillment of Revelation 13:16 through 18, the only alternative is to assume that something with a striking and most uncanny resemblance to the mark of the beast will appear in the not-too-distant future. Some argue that the current shots are the mark of the beast. I cannot say either way for sure. If it becomes no buying or selling without it, 100%, then yes, it will be. But there are also just as many arguments that it could be a precursor. So I cannot speak on that because I don't know for sure. Just trying to maintain transparency. I won't even tell you what I believe on the matter because I don't know enough about it. All I know is that the shot is not good and that it has a technological aspect to it that you do not want ever to enter into your body. And we've shown the patents. Actually, I think it was the video before last or like the last couple, whatever one that says patent in the title. I showed you the patents for the nanotechnology in the shots. We talked about ID 2020 to be introduced through vaccines. We talked about all of that. Literally is the introduction to transhumanism. They need you to have these, well, the nanotech, they need you to have it in your body ready to go so that they could do what needs to be done. I won't say any more on that. Just think Internet of Bodies. Think patent NWO 2020-060606. Think all of it. In other words, if what the transhumanists propose for our world is not the prelude to the mark of the beast, then I do not know what would be. Their plans for the future fit like a glove with the Apostle John wrote about the mark of the beast. The words of Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 through 18 represent a specific detailed prophecy. It cannot reach its full fruition until after the Antichrist begins his reign of terror. During the 7-year tribulation, even so, we already see Satan's evil and deadly end of days designed for humanity at work in the plans of those who seek to impose transhumanism upon us. So far, whoever wrote this, 100% true. 100% true. And if you don't believe that, again, I am sorry. I can't help you. And nobody else can, frankly, because that's what's going on. And the sooner you realize it, the sooner you accept it, the sooner you can help us wake the rest of the people up before it gets to this point. And I gotta say, we're running out of time. Why do I say that this prophecy is already in play? Continue reading, blah, blah, blah. What is transhumanism? Transhumanism is the combining of machines and human beings. That's it. In layman's terms, simply put, that's it. The merging of man and machine. To make you not a natural creation of God. You will be an altered version of that by man. So that man will become your God because they will be able and can now patent you. And the Supreme Court ruled on that, and we went over that before. If you've been here for a long time, you know that. David Tippett, a contributor to the World Economic Forum website, described transhumanism in this way, quote, "It is rooted in the belief that humans can and will be enhanced by genetic engineering and information technology of today, as well as anticipated advances such as bioengineering, artificial intelligence, and molecular nanotechnology. The result is an iteration of Homo sapiens enhanced or augmented, but still fundamentally human. Yeah, fundamentally you'll be human, which means you still gotta shit and piss, but you won't really be a human. You just won't. It will be impossible for you to get through the gates after doing this. This is a sure way to be locked in to where you're going. But we're the crazy ones, right? They're not doing any of this. Everything's still good. My TV still works. The central premise of transhumanism, then, is that biological evolution will eventually be overtaken by advances in genetic, wearable, and implantable technologies that artificially expedite the evolutionary process. The globalists of our day propose fundamentally change humanity through means that include the changing of the human DNA, i.e., nanotechnology, contrary to what the WEF would have us believe. The end result of this is artificial biological evolution will be something far different than what God created, as well as what Jesus died on the cross to redeem. That's literally what I just told you. And many other people I told you too. So if you're thinking about breaking and you're thinking about going to get this thing, remember that. There are fates worse than death, people. Trust me. And I know this person was outed and exposed, but this article references Dr. Carrie Madej in an April 19, 2021 video, defined transhumanism in a similar way as in the above quote. But also warned of its many dire consequences for our future as the elite of the world seek to exercise complete control of our behavior. In November of 2017, an article appeared on the Forbes website with this title, Transhumanism and the Future of Humanity, 7 Ways the World Will Change by 2030. Now that was in November 2017, guys. And this stuff was supposedly just brought on as a reaction to the pandemic. Come on. They literally have been using that as a scapegoat, the same one. Doing it for COVID safety. Safety and security, as always. As always. And they haven't even changed the wording of the excuse. They still say in order to stop the spread of whatever. They don't have to change it because people are so dumb. They can't open their eyes or go to the store and just walk around. Everything seemed to be fine. Like the past 2 months. Nobody's wearing a mask. Everybody's outside having fun, living their lives. But then, all of a sudden, now people are starting to wear their masks again. Now people are starting to freak out over people not getting the shot again. This is what they do. This is Hegelian dialectic tactics to wear down a population using demoralization, as in what was told to us by Yuri Bezmenov when he betrayed the Soviet Union and defected to the United States to warn us about the dangers of perestroika and the dangers of tyranny in general. He knew. This guy knew what was going on. And he told the truth as well, that the internal activities and the internal internal characteristics of the Soviet Union will not be changed. It will be primarily for outward consumption. The Soviet Union still exists, people. And what I'm telling you is a universal truth that you can prove to yourself by just read into what Gorbachev has said about it. Go read the book, The Perestroika Deception. Good book. Okay, let's see. Here's a quote from the introduction of this article. Quote, this transformation will be messy, complex, and sometimes scary, but signals already point to a future of humanity that will blur our identities into transhumanism. They're going to, and Klaus Schwab also said something about that, blurring the lines between our physical, biological, and digital identities or something like that. They're going to blur the lines of what's real and what's not. Lucifer is a mimicker. He cannot create things. He can only use things that are created. He can only manipulate things. This is what we have to watch out for. Not fall into this trap. Everyone thinks it's cool, right? Several disturbing statements regarding transhumanism emerged from this Forbes 2017 article. The assertion of the author that transhumanism will blur our identities, however, shocks me the most. It confirms the planned merging of machines with our bodies would remove what makes us human. Who is behind transhumanism? Lest you think that transhumanism is just the aspiration of a few mad scientists, please know that many of the most powerful and wealthy people in the world openly support the combining of humans and machines as the next step in the evolutionary process. And that's also how they got a lot of people in on this. What did they have to do first? What's the first thing that Alice Bailey, who was the head of Lucis Trust, she was up pretty high in the hierarchy. She basically said, see, now I lost my train of thought. I'm sitting here talking. Oh, yes. The very first thing that she said on how to take over a country remove the belief in God from the people so that they will believe that the government now is God. So they get a bunch of people not believing in God, get a bunch of people to believe in evolution, monkey to man type thing, even though it makes no sense. And you can literally debunk that all of the time, 6 ways to Sunday. But they get people to believe in evolution. And then they say, well, this is just the next step. Because we evolved into these thinking beings, so now we have to create things and evolve ourselves even further because it's the next logical step. And people will go, and they are going, oh, that's okay. Yeah, I'll accept this. That's pretty interesting. I never thought of it that way. No, that's not what this is, so there's that. This concept finds its most favorite and outspoken support in the World Economic Forum. Its website contains an abundance of information on the combining of humans with machines. Please know that the World Economic Forum is not some obscure fringe group. President Biden ran for office under the theme of Build Back Better, a slogan he took directly from the World Economic Forum as an indication of his support for its agenda. John Kerry, a prominent member of Biden's administration, has pledged the full support of the Biden administration to the Great Reset championed by the World Economic Forum. And if you are not aware of the details of the Great Reset, we actually went over that book. It was like the second live stream that I ever did. Went right through that book. And I referenced it 100 times. An article on the New American website ties together the Great Reset advocated by the WEF and the Biden administration with the push for transhumanism. Under the New World Order envisioned by the proponents of the United Nations-backed Great Reset, humans will be merged with machines and technology. Literally, perhaps most incredibly, the deep state globalists behind the efforts are coming out of the closet. These days, they are openly and literally proclaiming their intention to abolish private ownership of property and even fuse microchips into people's brains that will be able to read and manipulate individuals' thoughts. True. Very true, but I do not agree with the use of the term deep state because that in itself was created through the psychological operation that is QAnon. And when people say that, they only refer to people and different agencies within the United States government, preferably on the left side. And that's only the half the truth. It's all of them and more. We know that. But yes, they are openly proclaiming their intentions because we're, doing what we're doing. And it says, please read the preceding quote again. It aptly summarizes my research and correctly connects the Great Reset of the World Economic Forum with its push for transhumanism, through which it will read and manipulate the thoughts of those under its domain. Satan wants to be as God. That's why he was thrown out of heaven, because he wanted to sit on the throne above God. And he waged war in heaven, and cast out he was. Notice also the reference to that word again in the United States. In the preceding quote, this refers to those in the U.S. who put Biden in office and now control his presidency. And it's the same people that have done it for all presidents. These elite globalists in the U.S. and throughout the world talk openly about their plans for both transhumanism and the Great Reset. Yes, Fourth Industrial Revolution. Pick up a copy. And that was written in 2016, so a lot of stuff in there tells you about what's going on here. Consider this quote from the World Economic Forum's website regarding the changes they plan for our world under what the World Economic Forum calls the Fourth Industrial Revolution, their term for transhumanism. The Fourth Industrial Revolution represents a fundamental change in the way we live, work, and relate to one another. It's a new chapter in human development, enabled by extraordinary technology advances, commensurate with those of the first, second, and third industrial revolutions. These advances are merging the physical, digital, and biological worlds in ways that create both huge promise and potential peril. Look at that. The speed, breadth, and depth of this revolution is forcing us to rethink how countries develop, how organizations create value, and even what it means to be human. Even what it means to be human. What do you think they mean? You're going to be a human being with machines to play with? No. No, you're going to be a human being that is controlled by artificial intelligence. And most people still don't understand that artificial intelligence in general. And now the artificial intelligence is creating its own artificial intelligence. No one understands the implications of that. Though it may sound benign on the surface, the purpose of the Fourth Industrial Revolution is not to benefit humanity. No, not at all. It's the vehicle through which the World Economic Forum, along with globalists at the United Nations and in America, hope to force people into accepting a tyrannical and Marxist government, through which they intend to control the lives of everyone on the planet. Yes. The Great Reset agenda necessitates augmenting humans in such a way that will allow those in power to monitor and control their behavior via external computer networks and artificial intelligence. The beast system. The true way to merge all the worlds together is to get everybody merged with machines and upload all of those artificially intelligent humans or machines working together in close proximity and connect them to the worldwide beast system. How will the change happen? How will these power brokers augment the makeup of human beings so as to merge them with machines? To answer that question, we begin with the words of Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum. In January 10th, 2016 interview, he explained that human beings will soon receive a chip in their body in order to merge them with the digital world. Below is another excerpt from this interview. This is Klaus Schwab. Quote, "And at first we will implant them in our clothes, and then we could imagine that we will implant them in our brains and or our skin. And in the end, maybe here will be a direct communication between our brain and the digital world. What we see is kind of a fusion of the physical, digital, and biological world." To which the interview says, "We call someone, we don't even have the reflex to take a device. It's done naturally. The technique continues in the body." Schwab, yes. Interviewer, when will this happen? Schwab, certainly in the next 10 years. How do you think he knew that? He's part of the planning of it. This whole thing was forwarded for this reason. It's time for them to get us on that system. The following 2 points sum up the essence of transhumanism. The process includes augmenting humans into something quite different from what God created, as well as implanting a device inside them that will connect them to the digital world outside them. The plan consists of connecting humans to the digital world, such as a supercomputer that will monitor their behavior, for the ultimate purpose of controlling it through the blending of people with machines. At this point, however, it appears that these globalists might have a problem. How do they put such a system in place? The vast majority of people would readily reject the changes that I've described in the post, and rightly so. Some might desire an enhanced artificial intelligence that will come as the result of transhumanism, but not everything else that would come with it. In part 2 of this series entitled Transhumanism, Is It Already Here?, I will describe the deceitful plan of the transhumanists that they intend to use in augmenting human beings into something currently unrecognizable. Please keep reading, and we will. And basically, these are all the where he, showed his work, like we like to do here. But yes, transhumanism and the plot to control your life. There it is. So, nobody can say that's not what's going on here today. That's literally what's going on here today. I don't know how many times people have to tell anybody, but If you want understanding of it more, pick up the book written by Klaus Schwab, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Let me see if I got something else for you guys. Okay, I might be able to get through a little bit of this. This is NWO Plans, 10 World Regions, 10 Horns of the Beast. That's literally what this is. Now, I've showed the Club of Rome map before, and now we're going to go over this. How the NWO will spread to Europe. The awareness indicates that the conquest of the United States is not necessarily the beginning of the New World Order for Europe. The United States would need to be conquered if the New World Order were to be set up, but the purpose of conquering the United States is simply to get it diffused as an independent country so it cannot or does not wish to resist the implementation of the New World Order. What's going on now? That exact thing. As for Europe, under the New World Order, the Bilderbergs are an organization that has been created, much as the Council on Foreign Relations and Trilateralists in the United States was created, to bring these countries into the New World Order. The Bilderbergs, as a great arm of the New World Order, to help secure Europe and those countries relating to the Bilderbergs into the NWO. You must understand that the NWO is generally an outgrowth of the Rothschild banking and political powers, who set up or greatly set up the help of other organizations. The communist control of Russia, who also set up the control of Nazis in Germany during World War II by helping to fund the Nazi movement, along with others such as Henry Ford and some other large financiers of the world. We already know they fund all sides of every war, of every situation, every conflict, everything. So basically, we fight over their creation, their money. The awareness indicates that the Nazi movement and communist movement, both being funded from these Rothschild wealth and power base, were but experiments and early efforts to establish some kind of purpose in bringing the great powers of Europe under the control of the financial institutions owned by and controlled by the Rothschilds. The Rockefellers, who are often seen as competitors with the Rothschilds, are actually quite small in relation to the power and wealth of the Rothschilds, and could be squashed very easily by Rothschild's powers. But they're on the same side. They're literally on the same side. The Rothschilds have just been around for a lot longer, so it's... Yeah. The awareness indicates that Rockefeller's forces include the Council of Foreign Relations and the Trilateralist organizations, and these are helping to promote the New World Order. Rothschild are promoting the NWO under Zionism, and Bilderbergers and certain mafia contacts through most of the banking establishments, and therefore, even regardless of what happens in the United States, and the various countries of Europe will have their own problems relating to the controls being established through the Rothschild forces and the European economic system. Now, they don't have all of their eggs in one basket. They're trying different avenues to get to the same goal. That's why they have all these different organizations, sub-organizations, NGOs, governments, corporations, banks, you name it. They're all pushing toward the same goal, even though they might take a different route. Doesn't mean they're not pushing toward the same goal. Doesn't mean that they don't have friendly competitions with each other either. They might have some disagreement on who is going to be in charge, but that would be up to the 13 representatives from the 13 different families to decide. So, yeah, that's the Crown Council of 13 for anybody wondering. Okay, let's see. Excuse me. Where was I at? Therefore, even regardless of what happens in the United States and the various countries of Europe will have their own problems relating to the controls being established. We already read that. The European community will be brought together as a large conglomerate of nations. It will begin to have greater breakdown of boundaries as the nations are emasculated or diffused in terms of individuality. The definitions of each nation will begin to blur as the economics of Europe begin to spread and the boundaries are diminished, whereby entities can travel from one country to another without passports or without excessive need for usual customs evaluations that occur at borders. That's happening everywhere. The awareness indicates that the same will eventually encompass many of the Russian and Eastern countries in Europe, and eventually it's planned to encompass all of Asia. The awareness indicates that the plan calls for establishment of 10 regions of the world. These are what has been referred to in the book of Revelation as the 10 horns of the beast. This awareness indicates within the United States there will also be, according to the plan, 10 regions. These are that which referred to in the book of Revelations as a smaller beast that forces the masses to worship the larger beast. That actually makes a lot of sense. This awareness indicates that in this sense, the UN, being funded mostly by United States money, is being promoted by the lesser beast. And when the lesser beast, the United States, becomes a new republic, or the country having 10 regions instead of 50 states, this country will then become more or less an enforcer of the UN rules around the globe. That's always been the plan. It's always been the plan. The U.S. taxpayers will fund New World Order. This is my favorite because, yes, we are funding our own enslavement, and have been for a while. There will be, of course, cooperation from other countries who will help supply troops, but much of the funding for such action of the UN will come from the United States. That's because we're the main creditor. This awareness indicates that it appears most of the funding, or the largest portion, will come from the U.S., at least during the earlier stages of UN activity and world police enforcement. The awareness indicates that this does not mean that the United States will be sending troops to Europe to enforce the New World Order on all of the people in all the countries. It does not mean the United States will become the new form of Nazi Germany on world conquest for itself. It means rather that the United States will help to fund the United Nations in its various global projects in trying to bring resistance nations under control of the UN, and Europe itself will be organized slowly and gradually by the Rothschild organizations and the various leaders of the countries who are working with the Rothschild energies as they convert their countries into aspects of the New World Order. A lot of these things you can see have already happened. A lot of these things are already in place and rolling. Some could argue that we're already in the New World Order. I believe that. Ever since 2020. Many of the countries in Europe will be asked to donate troops and money to the UN, and thus strengthen the UN as a centralized world governing body, to allow greater power to conquer the rest of the world for super wealthy. There being approximately 13 families involved in this world conquest, the Rothschilds being the most notable of these families. Of course, that's what the reinvigorating multilateralism is all about, that we went over here on the UN's website, where it talks about upgrading the UN, making them a real world governing body. All this stuff is just the same. Same plan, same outcomes, same way of going about it, and we're just, I don't know what we're doing. But basically, we already know about this European Union, but I'm going to skip over that and start reading right here. The awareness reminds you that in 1933, Adolf Hitler spoke of a new world order. Seeing that it was his destiny to bring about a new world order, this awareness indicates you should also know that George Bush's father was one who helped finance Adolf Hitler into power. George Bush belonged to the Skull and Bones Society at Yale University, which was an offshoot of the Skull and Bones Society in Nazi Germany. Yes, they all worked together. They all worked together. This awareness indicates, well, New World Order would be worse than Hitler. This will actually be the last one that we read for today because I'm actually running out of time. Excuse me. The awareness indicates that the movement of the Nazis across Europe and Hitler's effort to promote the New World Order by force, by invading country after another, and subjugating the various countries in different ways, should give you some indication as to what to expect in a New World Order. Even though it will be much worse in modern times, and then in Hitler's times, because the equipment, technology for mass control and mass murder is much more advanced now than it was in his time. They got so many different things to use during that time. But it's all good because we all know where we're going, right? The awareness indicates that if indeed your united Europe could unite with a focus on freedom and the preservation of freedom under some kind of constitution that guaranteed these freedoms and the rights of individuals, it could be most beneficial. But if it's simply by joining together for economic purposes and political controls, be very wary. For it's quite likely that these political controls will begin to become imprisonment controls, keeping entities under greater and greater control for the purpose of certain individuals. That's exactly what it is. Literally exactly what it is. Okay, Rothschilds, the head of the beast. This awareness indicates that as long as entities understand that as being the horn of the beast or the head of the beast and can recognize the importance of staying separate from the Rothschild influence and creating a union of countries, they could do great things in the preservation of freedom in the future. But you must realize too that the Rothschild agents are like cockroaches crawling around your home. These cockroaches crawl all over Europe. They are everywhere. They are all around the world in the United States, Europe, Asia, Africa, Japan, and the Orient. They are consistently maneuvering and working for Rothschild purposes. I mean, that's just common sense right there. I don't even have to say anything. When this awareness speaks of the Rothschild purposes, it refers also to those cohorts, the other 12 super wealthy families that associate or ride the coattails of the Rothschilds. There are many families, but there are essentially 13 major families. There are approximately 300 families, but 13 major families that make up the international banking community, which is behind organizations known as the Bilderbergs, Council of Foreign Relations, various secret cults such as the Masonry and the Tong Organization and the Mafia. All of these various organizations, which are suborders of the international banking community families. So there you have it. This will be how this new kingdom is set up. They're getting it set up now. You know how easy it's going to be for them once they have everybody doing the same thing, which they do. Once they have everybody fully on the new system, then they can divide it up into 10 regions and put somebody as the head of those regions. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.